Okay, if I could have your attention, we're going to call the meeting to order of the Planning and Priorities Standing Committee. Let's go ahead and formally call the roll of the committee members. So Bob Miller, here. Myself, Matthew Jordan, here. Katie Rodriguez,
Here.
Solomon Davila, here. Rod Foster, here. Lauren Aronson, Gary Potts,
Here.
Jennifer Cooper,
Here.
Cheryl Storm,
Here.
Cynthia George,
Here.
Ashley Jackson, Simon Frazier, Chris Fennessy, here. Bob Bell, Bob is here, he should be right back. Rick Van Pelt, Dwayne Cable, John Wood, Crystal Koros, Ted Young, here. Amy Ulmer.
Here.
Okay, thank you. All right. The next item is public comment. We are going to try to limit this just a bit to about 10 to 15 minutes because there is a lot to do. And I have two requests for public comment. The very first person is Patricia Lynn. So please come up to the mic at the podium.
I'm going to address the group on behalf of the Business and Computer Technology Division, of which I am a member of the business section, particularly accounting. I want to apologize. I'm not normally a public speaker. I prefer the body of my work to speak for itself. But I'm going to cut to the chase and touch a couple areas of business because we as business have a lot to accomplish. Back in 2005 to 2007, the Department of Education asked us to direct ourselves to the model curriculum standards and frameworks. At that particular time, it produced 15 industry sectors and 58 pathways. We were asked on the California Academic Senate side to develop a pathway program for which I served. Many of our faculty joined in that, and the purpose was to develop articulation agreements with our local feeder high schools. Many of us did develop those agreements, and you can currently see them on the Academic Senate website, and they're maintained by Lionel Wiggins here at PCC. In addition to that, Dr. Scott, who was at that time a senator, invited me to his office in Pasadena, California, and he was developing SB 70, and he asked me to participate and to give input to his advisory group. It was determined that the model for Tech Prep, 2 + 2 + 2, would be the best way in which to service our students. So again, back to the high schools we went to develop that seamless transition from high school to community college. When we come to the community college, we then have many ways for which students can achieve success. Some is in a certificate area. If they receive a certificate, occupational, of less than 18 units, it is recognized by local business and industry. A certificate of 18 units or more must go through a very relevant and rigorous process in order to be achieved. Our certificates of achievement are placed upon students' transcripts. To develop a program, you must have your labor market survey. It must go through the curriculum process here at PCC. It must also go through the Los Angeles Orange County Workforce Development League. It must then be forwarded to the Chancellor's office, where if it is approved, it is then recognized. That is the elective component to the AS degree. We were then asked to develop majors, which I served with Ed Martinez for one summer, developing the major that happened to be for business so that we have an AA degree. Recently, we were asked to develop AST transfer degrees and AAT transfer degrees. Once again, the business department responded. I served on the committee. We used to have CAN, which was called the California Articulated Numbering System, and CAN was canned a couple years ago, and now we have the California Identification Descriptors, for which I again serve for business, and also on developing transfer model curriculums. For business administration, that was forwarded through our C&I committee and off to the state chancellor's office where we're waiting approval. 4 schools have been approved for business administration, locally LA Pierce and Mount San Jacinto. and hopefully ours will be approved very shortly. I've covered many different areas, but what I think is important to realize, the Department of Education sees business as a unit. The Chancellor's Office sees business as a unit. Top codes see us as a unit. 0500, that's business. 0501 is general business. 0502 is accounting. Accounting has 3 basic transfer courses: Accounting 10, 1A, and 1B. Accounting 1A and 1B are also transferable to the CSU and UC, but under top code standards, they must be included in a certificate program. So now we've been seen as a unit by the State Department of Education, by the Chancellor's Office, as a transfer to the CSU. Our local pathways, we have articulation from high schools to community college, from the community college to the CSU. And we are also seen as a unit for our first-year pathway programs. So respectfully, I hope PCC will remain keeping us as a unit too. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Darrell Taylor.
You can see that we have Business Division and ENT in the house today because we're concerned about what's happening here. We're at a bit of a loss now. We see this new proposal that is being presented. We're not sure if this is going to be voted on today or if there's still some more discussion going on about this. It looks as though there have been some adjustments made, and is there a possibility we can have any feedback to this before it forwards on, or it's a question to put before you?
Well, I would say that is indeed the item that will be discussed by the committee after public comment. How will we proceed on this issue?
So if public comment is over before and then you guys have your discussion, we will have no more say in it then at that point?
Well, public comment is your time to comment.
But we've seen this like 3 minutes.
We understand.
So in other words, review this right now and make our comment on this that we just picked up on that table over there?
Right.
Is
And if the
that the
committee,
process?
for now, and if the committee decides to extend the discussion, we can do that.
Okay. All right, yeah, so I'm a little bit at a loss of exactly how we should be approaching this, because we came really with the thinking of what we had seen last, and we're saying, well, that's not the issue now, this is the new issue.
I think what it's indicative of, Darrell, is that we heard some of the comments and we're now responding to those comments. So I think to the extent that people want to say what they need to say, I think that's fine. Then we have that information, so then when we go into our discussion about what we're going to talk about, we'll have a full menu of things to think about and talk about. Does that make sense?
I hear you. So I guess my question is, do you feel this is going to be voted on today? Or you don't know?
I can't predict
Well,
what's going to happen.
we'll see what the committee says soon.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll hold my comment.
Thank you. Okay, Chris Bilon.
Hello. I wanted to ask the committee how the decision was made to leave graphic communications in the ENT area. Who decided that? How was that decided? Do you know what graphic communications is? Can anybody answer me that on the committee, or do I have to is that just a
I think that will get into
rhetorical
that
question?
discussion in just a few minutes.
Because we are aligned with fashion. We have a certificate in common with the fashion program. Our area is much more closely aligned with VAMS than it is to remain in ENT. We have been in discussion with the art division about how we could fit into that division to provide even greater, service to students, because they would not only have design training with the VAMS area, but production, the possibilities to learn about production from our area. So I don't know how we got left behind over there, but for a while now we've been talking with the art division about moving in with them and with fashion. So that would be our desire, would be to be in that area. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Chris.
Coleman Griffith.
Indeed, a moving target. I think that it appears to me, at least on first glance, that architecture, fashion, computer science, and whatever, I don't even know what cage.
Kinesiology.
Oh, okay.
Athletics.
Are constitute, I guess, realignment at the college at this point. Is that correct? Is that what we've really been talking about all this time?
I don't understand your question.
Well, I guess at the end of this, the only programs to get realigned are individual programs, and so I guess that's what we're talking about here. Okay, again, maybe it was a rhetorical question, so I'm sorry. Forgive me. What I would like to say, though, that I emphasized in letters to the committee, though, is that this is really a critical thing. As you know, as many of you know, we're open to these ideas, just as Chris explained that she has been as well. And in fact, that's been kind of we feel a good thing. There are certain concerns, though, in that when any group moves into one community, enters another community, you need to ensure that there's certain protections and so forth to maintain the integrity of those communities that move and so forth. I would like to ask that the committee allow the stakeholders being described as realigned groups the opportunity to carry on those discussions during an interim period with the new areas that they're talking about moving to, so that in the end there could be some form of consensus or agreement, about the nature of that new landing, and also, to be honest with you, to determine its pros and cons, whether it would be a good thing or a bad thing at the end. And I think we need to be open to those things and so forth in this discussion. So that is my request, and I just and again, we're open to things and to positive things. So thank you.
Thank you, Holman. Thank you. I do want to take just a moment and thank everyone who did write to the committee members on your concerns from business and ENT and the various programs. I think it's a good, open discussion that we do indeed welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we're going to go to the third item on the agenda, which is titled Task Team Alignment Presentation, Discussion and Possible Action. And I believe that, Amy, you have a statement?
Can we get that up on the...
It's coming up right now.
Okay, I hope you can read that. So since Monday, when I presented on behalf of the, I guess I need this, on behalf of the subcommittees of the task force, one's enough. I've been reading all the emails from faculty, and again, I want to reiterate what Ed just said. Thank you for taking the time to send us your comments, because we work in large committees, and as you all know, committees morph as people can show up, and they can show up, and so the more information we have, obviously the better educated we are and the better job we're going to do. In response to the concerns that were raised, actually I want to talk to the committee. In response to the concerns that were raised to the committee last Monday and to all the emails, since I was the one who basically typed this up with the information we had, I met and spoke with Bob and Ed and with the chairs of the task force committee, and we revised the proposal, and this is what you have before you. I think quite a few of the concerns that were raised by the audience last week have been addressed in this, certainly not everything, but I'm going to walk you through the latest iteration, okay? So obviously on the first column on the left, the divisions who currently have permanent deans would maintain their integrity the way they are now with their permanent deans. Math and BAMS who currently have interim deans would have their interim deans reappointed for the next year. I'm going to skip the middle one because that's the one that takes more time. The CEC would stay the way it is right now. They would have an assistant dean who would report to the vice president of educational services. And you can see what's listed under the CEC. Those are the programs that are there today. And so that would not change. Cosmetology had voiced an objection to being moved into another area, and so they would stay where they are. The library, which is on the far right of your chart here, would be left to address their leadership concerns with the Vice President of Instruction, Dr. Bell over here. So we're going to give you a little work. So that was just a new title that someone came up with, and it would be this combination of the current business area and the E&T programs. So what would happen is business would stay as a unit, as Patty was talking about. The only thing that would be taken out of business would be computer science, and that would go to math. That seems to be a natural alignment. So you can see that the business programs that are listed, accounting, banking and finance, general business, BIT, CIS, marketing, legal assisting, hospitality, and STAT 15 would be in this new area. The people who have offices and classrooms, that nobody's going to move, but the main office would be in the E&T building, okay? And there would be an academic dean there. E&T programs, as listed, would also be under the same academic dean who would be housed in the E&T building. So nobody has to move from there either. And I heard what you said. I think we all heard about graphic communication, so that's something that the committee needs to talk about. And I did want to point out, for those of us who aren't familiar with the different statistics, there are some statistics classes that are in math, and they stay there. So the statistics that is currently in business would stay with business and go into this new area, which would also have this director of CTE and workforce development to deal with all the certificate programs and the workforce development. The few areas that the original committees felt should be realigned was to move architecture over to VAMS, to move fashion to VAMS, computer science to math, and the kinesiology division has asked to go to natural sciences, and so that seems to work, and that would happen also. So there are some concerns that were raised earlier that I guess the committee wants to talk about, but that's the latest draft that's happened since Monday, so we're kind of working around the clock here.
Okay.
So that's the presentation.
And this is now the time for the committee members to ask questions and to engage in discussion on this topic. So I invite now comments and questions and such from the committee members.
And just a point of clarification, I believe fashion's in business now, so fashion moves from business over to VAMS. Is that correct, everybody?
Yes, what did I say?
You
T&T.
so you just didn't say that, that's all.
Oh.
Okay, thank you.
Sullivan?
I just had a general question. Does this sort of distribute let's just say, the faculty across these different sort of divisions or whatever we call these, equal numbers of faculty? Was there any consideration based on that in terms of numbers of faculty?
Well, I think that this is a large area, so the idea of bringing in a director of CTE and workforce development to assist the division dean, if you will, was part of that consideration. And I think if this were to go forward, and if this academic dean, when she or he comes on board, if there are other structural changes within that division that are necessary, that person would obviously discuss that with Dr. Bell and would move that process along.
Ted?
But by that, are you thinking along the lines of like a coordinator for the different levels, something like that, when you talk about structural changes? Or?
I don't think that we've gotten that far on this. I just think that, again, this is an interim plan, and I think we need to remember that it's interim for a period of time while the rest of this plays out. The other part of the discussion we had on Monday had to do with our pilots and the changes in the ways in which we might think about structuring going forward. And we want to give that an opportunity to move forward and see what those 8 to 10 person working teams come up with that might inform how all of this may eventually change. Emphasize the word may. We don't know yet.
Rod?
On Monday, we were presented with 2 options, an option that was a status quo option and an option that looks like the one before us today. Is that still the case?
Well, it was still put before us. It hasn't been taken off the table yet.
Okay.
I'm here for Dr. Aronson.
Okay, Lenora?
To what extent were the affected departments, I guess, contacted or worked with in the formulation of their realignment into different disciplines? What was the method by which this was decided, and was faculty input from those specific groups sought?
I think that's really a question for the task team leaders or the participants in the various task teams.
Well, and I was on one of the subcommittees that came up with some of these proposals, and we had 2 representatives from business, and I think I know at one point, I think Chris Pilone, I think, was at some of the meetings. So we're not asked specifically. So we did have people represented at the meetings, but between Monday and today, this was just addressing the concerns that came up on Monday and the emails that have been coming in every day.
Rod?
I noticed that part of this proposal has CEC reporting to the VP Ed Services. Historically, in fact, up until pretty recently, CEC's always reported to the VP of Instruction. So I'm wondering what the rationale for this change was.
I can briefly speak to that, and I'll just again reiterate this as interim. As you know, Dr. Bell, who is sitting right here, is wearing the hat of VP of Instruction and VP of Student Services right now. And when the situation in the CEC developed, it was determined as much of division of labor, and in order to ask him not to wear a 5th or 6th hat, that at least initially the VP of Education Services, in this case I, would take this on. So we would continue in that mode. That's what the suggestion is, until such time as something else changes.
If someone wants me to concur with that, that's correct, yeah.
Okay, just a quick comment about that. It seems to me that realigning the instructional programs of the college, even though I understand that as primarily a non-credit operation, the CEC is a little different than the rest of the college. It seems to me to realign it away from the instruction office is just because of division of labor, I don't think makes sense. It's an instructional division of the college, and for the last umpteen years, 30 or so years, it's reported to instruction. And to lose that vital linkage, I think, is to do a disservice to the CEC.
Rod, I appreciate it. If I can respond, and I'm responding as just the person who sits in the chair of Vice President of Instruction, not as a committee member. I understand the concern, and I share it, and I think I want to emphasize that what Vice President Mills just indicated was simply an administrative response to the need to have some more immediate supervision and response to the kinds of concerns that come up on a daily basis at CEC. This is not a suggestion from my vantage point, nor do I think from the committee's vantage point that CEC would move away from instruction or close to what you just described. It would still be instruction. This just emphasizes who will be the immediate administrative response to any concerns that come up, given that there isn't one presently on site.
Well, my understanding is, though, that the reason, and I'm not arguing with what's happening right now, the reason that CEC moved its reporting line to the VP Ed Services is because they needed an on-site credentialed administrator, credentialed being the wrong term, I'm sure. And so for the time being, that makes sense. But if you're going to replace the dean at the CEC, then to me, it makes sense at that point in time. You don't need to have somebody doing double duty as the on-site administrator at the CEC because you'll have one. And so at that point in time, it seems to me to make perfect sense to move the CEC back under the VP Instruction.
If I can respond briefly, there's, as I've said countless times, there can be only one chief instructional officer of any college, and at the moment, Dr. Bell is our chief instructional officer. In my capacity as the VP of Educational Services, Dr. Bell and I are attached at the hip, the arm, the forehead, whatever it is,
stop there.
as we do as we do the work that we do. So there are no decisions of a curriculum or instructional manner made without consultation with the single and only chief instructional officer at the college. And again, I would emphasize that this is an interim plan until such time as something else occurs. And now, with that said, if it's the pleasure of this body that this reports to the Vice President of Instruction, then maybe we'll have to figure out some other way to help Dr. Bell with the responsibilities that he has right now. But I can also say that the CEC is a complex unit, and it does require a fair amount of attention. If we do put an assistant dean in that position, that individual will need regular assistance as occurs at the moment.
Cindy?
I'm looking at the formation of the new combined Business and Workforce Development Division, and it has an academic dean and a director of CTE and Workforce Development. If this is an interim plan, will this academic dean and director of CTE and Workforce Development be appointed? Will the jobs be flown? And how long will is this interim considered to be in place? I mean, do we have any idea how long this interim plan would be before there's some kind of formalized final plan?
It would be my response, and Dr. Bell and I talked about this yesterday when I was consulting with him a little bit on this topic, that both positions, the academic dean and the director of CTE and Workforce Development, be flown as permanent positions as soon as humanly possible. And the reason why I'm so dramatic about that, at the moment, the CTE office is reporting up to me, so I'm up close and personal with the needs of that office, and I know that the academic divisions could really use some leadership right now from the CTE perspective. So my personal recommendation is that those two positions be flown as permanent positions as quickly as possible, so that we can get some continuity and quality people in those positions so we can move the institution forward.
And I think I can add that in that case, we would go through our normal management hiring policy.
That's correct.
Solomon.
With regards to the interim deans in math and visual arts and media studies, since this is an interim plan, is this just the permanency of these particular interim positions in these two divisions? Is that the idea that this is going to be perpetual interim before a more permanent plan?
Well, I think the idea was Dr. Rocha asked, what do I do until the college reaches a consensus on a full realignment?
Right.
And so these areas need deans, and so the idea was interim until consensus is reached, so who knows?
It's a good point, though, to keep in mind that this is an interim plan,
right,
and that there are further discussions about our long-range plan that was, as we heard about at our last meeting, being led basically by Joy Britton.
Yeah. I watched the video.
Okay.
Thanks. Make sure there's some popcorn nearby.
Cindy, and then Rod.
Okay, I have one other question. If this is an interim plan, until it's formalized, would CTE stay where it is right now, or would they be expected to move and then possibly move somewhere else again?
It would be my personal expectation that if this particular scenario were put into place, it would then start reporting to the Vice President of Instruction. The whole thing would report to the VP of Instruction.
I'm talking about physical location. Would we be expected to move physically at this point, or would we wait until some finalized?
Well, that's a detail, Cindy,
okay,
so I don't know
okay,
the answer on that, but the idea is that the business, E&T, and the CTE office would be under the purview of this leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Rod, did you have a question?
Thank you. Yes, more in the form of a comment. We have, remember, two options in front of us. One is to fill vacancies and maintain the status quo, and then we have the option that's being presented here today. Clearly, this option moves us in a direction that looks like realignment. And yet we're talking about the reality that we haven't reached consensus on realignment yet. And we're talking about having a permanent academic dean and a director of CTE workforce development, which are permanent. So that means that we're talking about making a permanent step towards realignment with this proposal. And yet, nobody's reached consensus on what direction we're headed. And it's my understanding that the status quo is in play, that other forms of realignment are in play, and that this being presented as an interim measure with permanent parts doesn't make sense to me. And if we're in such a hurry to fill this academic dean and director of CTE position, how come we're not in a hurry to fill our VP instruction position?
Well, I can't respond to the second part, but I can respond to the first part in the sense that regardless of whether we realign in any interim way, any permanent way, or anything in between, we do need a dean responsible for career technical education, and we need a director of CTE and workforce development. In whatever scenario exists, we are desperately in need of leadership in those two areas. The workforce development individual would be responsible for external activities, labor market studies, all of our workforce development activities with employers and what have you, grants management. I mean, there's just any number of things that have to be taken care of in whatever structure that we need. So the positions are needed.
Well, in a status quo structure, though, would that person still report to the division dean of engineering and technology, or would that person report to VP Ed Services or instruction?
Which person are you talking about?
The director of workforce development.
That person, in my mind, would report to whoever the CTE dean is.
Okay, so we're still talking about a dean of a newly constituted division that represents a realignment plan whereby we put what has traditionally been our tech ed division together with our business division.
If we didn't do that, we have a vacancy in the CTE dean position right now. So if we didn't do any of that, it would be my recommendation that we fill that position with an academic dean and that we hire a director of CTE and workforce development reporting to that dean, whether that dean runs the existing CTE office or whether that dean has a bigger responsibility.
Okay.
Okay, is there further discussion among the committee? Chris?
I do want to say that I like this draft so much more. Thank you so much, Amy. This is great work. I like this. I think it answers a lot of the concerns from Monday's draft. But as far as I know, this is the first time this is being vetted by any committee, this proposal, including the subgroup that was forced to help Amy to create this and hasn't been able to meet. In fact, was supposed to meet today as their first meeting. But and I think that's, you know, I've always said that, you know, the realignment discussions, or not always, but for the last few months, it's been a really great way of how shared governance is working on campus, because they've allowed people to fill things out, they've allowed for real discussion, and if this is supposed to be, passed very, very quickly, that takes away that what's working for the realignment discussion. I think that this isn't really been discussed enough and really vetted enough by the entire college, for us to really make a recommendation for this proposal. Not to say that we should necessarily make a recommendation for the other proposal of the status quo yet, but I just think that it's simply too early for this committee to come to a recommendation to the College Council, because we haven't had the time to discuss things. And I think that, we had so much time to really spend time on researching for realignment, but then the actual decision-making proposals has less time. That's, again, I don't think appropriate.
Thank you. Katie, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I was also have been reading the emails over the last couple days and listening to the feedback that came in on Monday, and this does seem that this is more in line with what was requested by the faculty representing some of these divisions. But I would also further agree that without another opportunity for those faculty in the divisions that will be affected by this to look at this proposal and see how they feel about it. I don't feel comfortable with us as a group moving forward on it.
Matt?
I was just going to ask, piggybacking off of Lenora and Katie's comment, do we need a process for these affected departments to give their response?
Yeah, we anticipated that would likely be the direction that the group wanted to go in, and so one of the next things that we wanted to talk about when appropriate was what our next step would be. Now, the way this process works is we have a proposal, and let's assume that the group moves a proposal forward. It is now here in the Planning and Priorities Committee. So the proposal came from the task teams. It's now here at the Planning and Priorities Committee. The next step, if it gets past Planning and Priorities Committee, would be the Academic Senate for consideration. And then if the Academic Senate passed it, it would then go to CAPM, the Council for Academic and Professional Matters, which is the executive committee of the Academic Senate, the Vice President of Instruction, the Vice President of Educational Services, and the President of the college.
Correct.
And then if it got past CAPM, then it goes to College Council at that point as an information item, because it is an academic and professional matter, so it's not necessarily a voting item. And then from the College Council, it would go to the Executive Committee and the President and there. So that's still a journey that needs to be followed. So what we're really talking about now is what amount of additional time does this committee want to give to our faculty colleagues and staff colleagues and manager colleagues to consider this current option, and is this option acceptable to this group to forward to our colleagues for consideration? I think those are the two questions.
Ed?
Amy?
Yeah, I have a question for Chris. One of the things in our subcommittee that we talked about a lot was student access and students not knowing where to go when they had a problem, and we really wrangled with a lot of that stuff. Does this help with that at all, do you think?
I think this would, specifically in regards to the business, the CTE programs. I think that would be much more streamlined for students to kind of, because most students come in and they don't know what CTE is. I think business and workforce development is much simpler and would give them a much better one place to go kind of direction, which is one that. And so I think, yeah, exactly. I think that the students, I think this would help for them in that general aspect. Oh, Rod?
Excuse me. We still have two options to discuss, not just one. And so I don't want to lose sight of the fact that we do have the option of filling our vacancies and doing whatever changes we do in a much more considered and deliberative way. And what I heard from people that contacted this committee since Monday was that there is a very good case to be made for keeping the business division intact and a separate division. And if I could characterize what I was hearing, is that A, it would align us with virtually every other school in the universe, and B, it would allow for a more viable business department that would have potential for growth and potential for changing to keep up with the rapidly changing business environment we live in. By combining it with the engineering and technology programs, inevitably we're going to have to make a decision between somebody who comes to the job with technical chops and somebody who comes to the job out of a business school background. And I don't think we're going to get we're going to get both things in one person. And so inevitably one of the halves of the whole would be shortchanged. And so that's why I'm very much in favor of the option of backing away from this, filling the vacancies, and taking the time to do this in a deliberative fashion.
Solomon?
I want to go back to what you mentioned about how much time it is that we provide people for feedback. I mean, I like I mentioned earlier, I watched the video and make sure I understood the proposals at hand, both proposals at hand. And wanted to, I was trying to, and I rewound it several times, the impetus for this particular proposal here, and I'm assuming that what's being presented is actually aligned to EMP goals, which are actually quite well established and quite well articulated. And so the idea is that to increase certificate count, adjust to exactly what you mentioned, Rod, the changing of the workforce arena out there, to be able to just, address the specifics of what's the reality today in a workforce environment. I'm assuming that that's the impetus of this particular proposal, having that sort of directive for the EMP goals. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, if any time is required to have input of any discussion for any of these movements, I think should be merited of how much time it is that's required for somebody to make that similar justification to whatever proposal that they have. How is it that the EMP goals are met within whatever it is that they propose? So that's what I consider to be the framework for any time frame that we develop.
Okay, thank you. The further discussion?
One other quick comment, two quick comments, please. In talking about the business division, I'm afraid I gave short shrift to the ENT program. I'm such a relic around here. When I first came here, we taught people how to be airline stewards in our ENT department. And we had a classroom set up just for the purpose. So I want to make sure that I characterize ENT as being a very fast-moving arena as well. And I don't think it's practical to have one person guiding both, to me, disparate divisions. Secondly, there is a labor issue embedded in this plan, and that is we have a section of our contract that deals with the issue of bumping rights when we're in a reduction in force mode, which is obviously something that could come into play given the current state of the state economy and what's happening with higher ed and K through 12. And by realigning these divisions, you would be realigning people's bumping rights. And so I think that is something that needs to be thought of as well.
Could you just define the bumping rights a bit more?
Yeah, our contract has a fairly lengthy article on the issue of what happens if we have to reduce force. And it talks about FSAs and seniority and issues like that. And so, and generally speaking, the contract speaks to these at the division level. And so when you combine two divisions, you're creating a different playing field for reduction in force.
Thank you. Ted.
I wasn't part of the subcommittee that put this together, but in looking at it, I can see how it addressed many of the email that came in, although I would be interested in knowing what the reaction is. I think I know. I heard a lot of clapping a minute ago, but it seems to me that as a committee we could stipulate, as some people have mentioned, a period of time to be able to have the reaction so people can voice their opinions in email or be prepared to come here and talk, and we could reconvene to deal with this proposal and the other proposal, the two options, in a week or something like that, where we'd be able to have the time to hear from everybody.
Okay, so I think I hear a proposal, but Chris.
I would actually argue that, as a member of the subcommittee supposed to be dealing with this, we need to meet. We need to meet and talk about this. We have people who aren't necessarily on the Planning and Priorities Committee, more representation, and I think that as great as this is, it obviously still needs vetting, and I think that until there's actually a group that sits down and talks about this, as amazing as Amy's doing on this, it's not representative of the entire college committee talking about and creating the proposal.
Amy?
Chris, I want to respectfully disagree, because I really thought after I presented on Monday, we were done, our committee, that it now moved on to planning and priorities. We'd done all our work since November. Whether people liked it or didn't like it, we did it in good faith, and now it's moved to this committee to deal with. And I know we were going to meet because we weren't ready to present totally, and that our time was pushed forward. But I think those subcommittees are basically over with, I feel, that we followed the process, and that at this point, it's up to this committee to decide on a process, let people respond, and then make the decision. And yet, anybody who is on our committee can respond.
Chris?
And I guess in response to that, I feel like this task team that we are on wasn't necessarily one of the task teams that was created in November or whenever they were created. And I think that we kind of, I don't think it was purposeful, but we didn't open that discussion up to the college the way that we did originally. And so, I mean, really the task team, the two new task teams of the interim plan and the pilot programs were created out of the two task teams that already existed. And so I don't think that this discussion has, I think you're right in saying that it's almost become a planning priorities kind of discussion. And it seems obvious to me that the college isn't right now feeling like they have had themselves, haven't been heard. And I think that, I mean, it's within this body's priority to officially create a new task team to deal with this, even if it's only for a week or two, and get the people who actually have, who have best interest in this to come and discuss. And that's something that I would propose.
And in the interest of participation, there are some committee members who have not had an opportunity to ask questions or make a comment. Is there any comments or questions that other members would like to make?
The only comment I want to make is, first of all, I want to thank everyone for the emails that was sent over the past week. It was edifying, and it was kind of good to hear what everyone had to say. But on the other hand, I do believe that a lot of the issues that I was concerned about is now being addressed. But I do believe, too, with Kathy and Chris, that we need to do our due diligence and allow some time to allow people to speak on this new proposal. And I believe that we just should do our due diligence in allowing for that. So that's the only opinion I have.
Jennifer?
Well, I feel that with all this time and all this work that everybody's done and everybody that's emailed like they have, that we wouldn't be supporting the faculty if we don't give them a chance to voice their thoughts. And I agree that we need to give our faculty and other staff members an opportunity to voice what they feel about what we're trying to present.
I think Matt and then Ted.
Yeah, I just wanted to share what I feel, the information that I would need to feel comfortable taking a vote. And I would like to hear from each of these departments to give them the opportunity to say, yes, that's fine with me. No, I don't want that. This is why. And once I had that information, I would feel comfortable voting. And I don't think that's takes an exhaustive amount of time. Like, I think that could happen in a week to get that information from these departments.
Can we do a survey?
Well, it's Ted's turn first.
No, I would follow up. I would say it's not, I don't think it's just a question of yes or no. I mean, we need to understand the reasons why. So if somebody is saying, no, I'm opposed to this, we need to know why and the kinds of information that we were getting in the email, that kind of information. I'm also very concerned about what Rod brought up, and I think that's something that needs to be carefully addressed. In all honesty, I hadn't thought about bumping rights. When I was looking at this, I was thinking just of structural kinds of things. As somebody who's had, the 1 hour to look at it that we've all had. So I would ask Rod or anybody else who has that knowledge to give us some details of what the implications would be, concrete details, if this were to happen, because that could be a very serious issue. And that's the kind of information that I personally would want to see, that information and the concrete reasons, yes or no, before, vote. And again, I understand the essence, of time, and if we could do this before spring break.
Okay. Well, there does seem to be a consensus in the committee for time and taking an appropriate amount of time to research these issues and communicate with especially the affected divisions, and to continue this discussion. So Is there a motion for another meeting to further review this document, or?
I move that we reconvene this panel the Thursday after spring break.
I second.
That would be Thursday, the 26th?
Okay, and I agree with the 2 weeks. I think that's very appropriate. The problem is there is a calendar standing committee meeting at noon on the 26th, and at least I know Dr. Bell will be conflicted. Would Wednesday, the 25th, be acceptable to the group? Because on Friday, the 27th, we have BRAC and other things going on.
I have no problem with it, except there's a college council meeting that day as well.
I
And
can't
that
be
means
here,
at 2:30
but I don't care. I can't be here that day, I'm in interviews.
on the 25th. Okay.
The associate students meet at 12 o'clock on Wednesdays?
That won't work then. Okay.
How about doing this after the calendar committee meeting?
That would work.
At what time?
For me, it's at
When is that?
1:30, it looks like. Is that correct, Dr. Bell?
Calendar committee is scheduled from noon to 2. We'll probably conclude business about 1:30, so we could conveniently schedule this meeting at 1:30.
1:30? Would that be acceptable to everybody?
I know that there are faculty who do teach on Thursdays at 1:30, and so you'll be losing faculty representation, particularly Dr. Ernst, and I know she has a class at that time.
How about the other faculty members?
I also have a class at that time.
You do have a class at that time, Katie?
Yes.
Solomon?
I do too.
And that's not going to work. So we need a 12 o'clock is what it sounds like.
A Tuesday, Thursday, 12 o'clock.
How about
Would Tuesday the 24th
Tuesday the
be
24th?
too soon?
Hold on.
What about going to the next week?
Well, that's after the spring break.
That's after, right?
Our regular, we have been meeting
I'm
on Mondays at 12:30. The next Monday, we could meet on the 23rd, which is the Monday immediately after spring break.
Or we could meet on the 24th, which is the Tuesday.
No?
Can't meet on the 24th.
I think it's important to do it during college hour,
Yeah, which is 12
because
to 1.
that is the 2 hours a week that everybody is in theory available to come to this, and I think it's an important enough thing to schedule it that way. So how about the Tuesday, the second Tuesday following spring break?
The second Tuesday?
Yes.
Can I ask for clarification? In the interim, before we meet again, whether it's in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, what is the process for people to be in touch with us? Because what I don't want to have happen is on that 2 weeks from now, people come and we haven't heard anything up till then, and we're inundated with information. So I'd like a process, which is why I said something about some kind of written survey where people could send, like they're sending their emails to us now, and then maybe we could meet on that Monday, talk about all those ideas, and then meet on a noon hour, so we have some kind of thoughts before we just sit down.
I think that we have all next week to gather comments and thoughts and what have you. Then we have the spring break, and people can certainly use that time to put their thoughts together if they want. So I guess I'm wondering why we just couldn't get together on the 24th. Because again, we're beginning to bump up against the end of the year and awards banquets and all kinds of stuff.
24th at noon?
Yeah,
And then
we'll
Chris?
meet on the
So-
24th.
Sorry, so.
This is a midterm period for faculty, and so it's a tremendously busy time for faculty. And I would hope that this committee feels the responsibility, rather than forcing faculty who may not even know about this to come to them, that it would be a better face on this committee if this committee actively went to the faculty to seek their input.
Well, we can do that. We can do that tomorrow.
And then
This
give them,
afternoon.
have time to meet with them, address their questions, field their questions,
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we
rather
get-
than email communication over spring break, during which
well,
people are grading and so forth.
We have all next week. So tomorrow, we send this out to the whole campus if we want to. The academic monthly. We invite comments either through a survey or just general email comments or what have you. Yes, Katie?
I would just maybe recommend that perhaps next week we could have some sort of open forum during the noon hour, because I know it's nice to be able to get email comments and to get surveys, but I think the 10 minutes of public comment is maybe not sufficient for people to be able to voice their concerns, and that might be useful to have that prior to spring break, prior to our next official meeting, where people could come and give some of their reasons on why they either are interested in this alignment or not.
Okay. I think Chris and then Lenora.
Yeah, I like the idea of having us meet one more time, maybe perhaps just for an information item for discussion only, where we review the results so that it's not just us showing up, each having a copy of what I'm sure is a well-planned and well-thought-out and and addresses the concerns of those emails and things that we've gotten, but we haven't had time to actually discuss it. I think that it's more appropriate for us to discuss it and then have a proposal for us to actually discuss taking action on. So I would say that perhaps one of the Mondays, either the 23rd or the 30th, we have our regular, the 30th was our regular scheduled meeting for a information item with obviously the public invited to come and discuss, and then a Tuesday or Thursday college hour meeting where we take action.
Okay, well, next week, the week of the 9th, if I'm hearing correctly, there's a desire for some type of open forum or meeting, something of that nature, right? And then the week of the 23rd, I'm hearing that that we would want to reconvene on probably Tuesday, the 24th, at the college hour, 12 noon. Okay. Lenora?
Does that provide enough time for these groups to meet themselves, rather than each individual sending an email considering it? Maybe the accounting people need to have a meeting, adequate time to form a meeting on their own, discuss this as a group. And I feel that if we're just giving them next week and then no one's on campus because it's closed during spring break, we're forcing them to meet, discuss, and do this very quickly. Whereas, what's the harm in an extra week? What's the harm in giving them
I think we want to push it off another week. We'll push it off another week, personally. In other words, this is not about forcing this process. This is about good, open communication and transparency. So I think that if that's the pleasure of the body, I certainly would agree with that.
Well, given the fact that we have one dead week in the middle of this process, I think it makes sense to do that.
Yes, Chris?
Okay, so I will formally move to have an open forum meeting on Tuesday, the 24th at 12 o'clock to discuss this, and then bringing this back as a action item on Tuesday, the 31st, or is that the 1st? The 1st.
I think that's a week.
I thought the open forum was next week.
I thought you had one next week, Chris.
But they're saying that they wanted more time before the open forum
They want
to meet themselves.
Right.
Okay. Well, Chris has made a motion.
Can a friendly amendment, maybe? We actually have a meeting on the 30th for the College Council Planning and Priorities Standing Committee at noon. That's the normally scheduled meeting.
Right.
Could we have the meeting on the 30th instead of the 1st?
Well, except it's not a college hour time.
Well, I have a division meeting on May 1st, so my college hour is booked with division, committee, all kinds of meetings, and we have set this for Mondays.
Yeah.
So
Right. We had previously scheduled a meeting of the Planning and Priorities Committee for Monday, the 30th.
The 30th. I will amend my motion to say to have our action item be on Monday, the 30th. I think that with a college hour open forum, we should be able to address the concerns without having to have an college hour discussion. And especially if that's a time that we know that the committee can be here, the committee, many of whom were actually elected to be here, and that's, I think, very appropriate.
Okay, so let's see, first of all, if I can reiterate your motion. You have moved to have an open forum on Tuesday, the 24th at 12 noon, right, an open forum, and then that we reconvene at a regularly scheduled date on the 30th at 12 noon, which is Monday, for consideration of this item.
Yes.
But, so now, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay, so for the committee members, all in favor, please raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4.
We don't get to
5,
turn on
6.
lights?
There aren't enough to go around.
This may be my only chance.
10 in favor? 10 in favor, all opposed? 1. Okay, very good, thank you. All right, is there any further discussion today? Chris?
Can I just say to everyone here, including the audience, I haven't received any of the emails that are apparently coming in to discuss this. I don't think any other students have. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to be able to be in that process as well.
Chris, give me your email address.
They can all be found on the AS website, as.pasadena.edu, or any of our emails in AS are aspcc. First initial last name for me, it's cfennessy@gmail.com.
Great, thank you. And as I get them, I'll forward them to you. How's it?
That'd be great, thank you.
Cindy?
And to Simon as well.
If this is going to be the copy, the interim plan draft is going to be distributed, I would like to make sure that it does go to everyone on campus, because classified is affected by these by possible changes as well, and so I would like to hear their voice.
So that when this plan is sent to the entire campus, that also the contact information for the members of this committee is also distributed again, so that those that cannot attend the open forum have a way to contact us as well.
Okay. Any other discussion today?
Yeah, I just had another comment about the process for soliciting opinions from the departments. I just have the need for it to be consistent and clear, because there's been so much feedback about process. So rather than us leave here saying, it just seems fuzzy to me right now how it's going to happen, I'm actually okay with an email that says, yes, no, what is your rationale, what is your thinking? If you have questions, you can contact one of the members of the committee for more feedback. I don't know.
What I would suggest is maybe the 5 of us that got together, yourself, Ed, myself, Lynn as the other task team leader, and Amy, get together and, based upon all the input we've heard today, carefully construct a process, make sure that the 5 of us are comfortable with that process, and go from there. Or we could figure it out right now, Matt. If that's your preference, we can do that.
I don't have a preference. What do the committee members think?
The only thing that I would add is, though, you're not asking for a survey. You're not asking for an online vote, because that we cannot do. You're just asking for something, for a vehicle to express opinion.
Yeah, from these departments.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's what I was mentioning earlier, that if they can context, or the argumentative construct, whatever they provide, is within the construct of the EMP. Anything outside of that is, everyone's opinion. Everyone has their own opinion, and that's great. But if whatever's proposed is not within the construct of the EMP, then how can this committee actually consider that opinion versus something that was somehow addressing the EMP? So that we need to measure apples and apples, as opposed to things that are just, outside of the boundaries.
Okay. Again, so this committee will, or that the subcommittee will look into the creation of some type of survey mechanism. Okay. All right. Any further discussion today?
Well, when are you going to get that out to everybody? I mean, because if this is our time frame that we're looking at, they need time to think about it, they need time to meet, and I want to be comfortable with the decision we make.
All right,
And
I will say that we'll get this out sometime tomorrow, Monday at the absolute latest.
okay, and then how do they know who they are to contact once they have met, and who's going to compile all this information?
Well, Katie indicated that she wanted the names and contacts of all the committee members, so I guess she wanted everybody to receive the input, Katie. I guess that's what you're referring to.
Right, I would be most comfortable with that.
Right. And so we'll have to figure out some way to compile the information.
Before our next meeting?
I guess so.
Okay.
Cheryl?
My concern is that we'll duplicate what we've done today. This information will be compiled, we'll get the sheet of paper, and we'll be sitting here again saying, oh. So I'm wondering if the committee, after the surveys and after the open forum, can get together and discuss where we are, so that when we come back, we're able to maybe vet it among ourselves of how we're feeling, if it falls in line with the EMP. Answer some of the questions before coming back and making and voting on it, just to have an open forum discussion, because if all the other constituent groups get to have a conversation, but the committee doesn't, I feel like we're a little short.
Well, I think that we are going to get together on the 30th, but there's nothing that says we absolutely have to make a decision on the 30th.
Okay.
So I think we allow the process to play out, and we kind of see where we are right there, recognizing there's still option A on the table that needs to be considered as well.
Are you going to vet that as well with this plan to the whole community?
Guess we could.
What was the question?
I didn't hear.
Option A, the no change.
I think both need to be presented to the entire campus community.
Lenora and then Amy?
Just a clarification, did I hear you correctly that you were going to have a survey mechanism created by tomorrow?
No.
We're going to have,
Go ahead.
we're going to have some type of process to gather information created by tomorrow. It may be a survey, it may be just an email. If you have concerns, please respond to us by such and such a date with this kind of thing.
I would like to remind the committee about, just general rules of statistical representation. A self-selected sample is probably not the best indicator of how the faculty feel.
Amy?
I want to respond, Jennifer, to what you were saying about how it's going to be compiled. We're all going to get whatever is emailed to us.
Right.
We'll be at the open forum, so you'll be compiling it as I compile it and Ted compiles it. We'll all have the same information from which to discuss.
But then when are we going to get together and put it together?
I thought that was on the 30th. We were
the
going to
30th.
talk.
That'll be the
30th.
30th, so we all bring what we have received
Exactly.
together, and
Yeah.
we'll work on that on the 30th. That's
Right.
part of what we're doing the 30th?
Yeah, basically on the 30th, with whatever new information is in front of us, or whatever information, new, old, or anything in between, everybody will come prepared to speak to the topic based upon their interpretation of the material that they have in front of them, that they've looked at.
So we'll have a cutoff of when they need to get information back to us, so that we will have time to go through the emails, because emails were flying yesterday and today, where I just was throwing them into folders.
If the committee wants to give them a cutoff, I personally would prefer not to give anybody a cutoff.
Okay.
And, if we get it into
Study the
the
night
minute
before.
before the meeting starts, so be it.
Matt? And then Ted?
I was just going to say, Lenora, I think we might be using the word survey wrong. My thinking is that it's an email, or it's something that's going to say, get together with your full-time department faculty, examine this, say yes, no, maybe, and provide your rationale of what you want to happen. And that's not a survey.
Right.
It is simply soliciting comment.
Yeah.
Okay. Amy?
But those comments would have the parameters that Solomon's talking about. So not just, we don't like it, but a rationale that fits with the EMP, future of the college, some philosophy.
But I agree, and I think Solomon's correct, and I think you're correct. But if somebody wants to send us a note that says they don't like it, it's a free country, they can do that.
That's true, right.
And then we...
That doesn't help us.
Well, exactly. Right. But we take the information as people want to convey it.
And this document then, as this is Plan B, Option B, or whatever we're calling it, this one and Option 42, and the status quo, that can go out as an email to the entire campus community now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to be clear, that's the plan with the process that the five of us will get together and determine how we're going to, get information back as a result of those two pieces of information.
Great. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay. Alicia, if you come up to the mic. Can hear you.
Hi, sorry, I know that this is not public discussion time, but I was just going to request that in that memo that you sent out with the two plans, if the realignment plan would also please discuss how it addresses the EMP, because I don't know that we are clear on that. So if that is included as a rationale with the realignment plan, then that would be very, very helpful for us to understand why it was developed and how we should
You
proceed.
mean this one? The
That one.
Oh, this one. Yeah.
That's the one on the table right now, right?
Yes, it is.
So if that one would, please explain how that addresses the EMP.
Sure.
Thank you.
The interim.
That's easy.
All right, anything else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn for today?
So moved.
Second. Second? Okay. Done.